We're flying from Stockholm to Frigari in the southern part of Corsica. Now's a good time to review what we know about Corsica. It's part of France, and it's the birthplace of Columbus and Napoleon.
Ladies and gentlemen, if we could please ask you to return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts, as we will be landing very shortly. Thank you.
First impressions. The people here have to be tough to survive in this rough landscape. From the airport, we drive to Sartene, an old hill town. Everything here is built up from solid rock. Our guide gives us the lay of the land. This picturesque town dates back to the beginning of the 13th century. The wine from this area is supposed to be very good. Hope we get a chance to try some. The maze of narrow passageways and the steep steps guard against attack. These attacks can come from outside or inside. We learn about vendetta, maybe the only Corsican word borrowed into English. It's a blood feud based on family honor that demands that the offended party kill the offender. In the 1830s, a feud between two families here divided the town and led to the tall fortress-like homes. Often the church had to intervene. Which leads us to another interesting custom, the catenacciu, or the chain. It takes place on Good Friday. An anonymous penitent, in red, bears the cross and drags a chain for over a mile. For this he is absolved of his sins. The cross and chain are on display at St. Mary Church. The church stands on the village square, named Liberation Square. This is a war memorial. But liberation in the name is all about this guy, Pasquale di Paoli. He led the revolution that ended 500 years of Genoese rule. He's the father of the Corsican Republic, 1755 to 1769. But here's the important part. He wrote the first constitution, inspired by philosophies of Rousseau and Locke, and was the first to implement female suffrage. Back in the day, this was a big deal, and Paoli's constitution and the ideas it was based on greatly influenced America's founding fathers. Looking out over the countryside from Liberation Square, I have a feeling there's more to learn. So the next stop is the Prehistory Museum. To start at the beginning, Corsica has been continuously occupied from 6,500 BC. The museum has a nice collection of these monoliths dating from 3000 to 1800 BC. There are artifacts from the Bronze and the Iron Age. Carved ivory indicates trade with other cultures. Phoenicians and Greeks colonized the island, and in 535 BC, Carthage conquered them. After Rome defeated Carthage in the First Punic War in 238 BC, Corsica and Sardinia became a province of the Roman Empire. We stop for a minute to take in the beautiful view of Sartene and the valley below. We're headed to our hotel now. Sometimes it's the little things that say a lot about a people. The road signs are in French and Corsu. Our tour guide points out a Genovese tower. They built 85 of them, a kind of early warning system. Then a beautiful sunset over the Mediterranean. We have arrived at Ucapu Bianco, a quirky boutique hotel. We're in room 007. This morning, on the way to Bonifacio, we passed this stone hut built by shepherds for shelter. This rocky ground can only be good for sheep. There it is, the citadel of Bonifacio. The portraits are a recent addition. Here's an aerial view for perspective. The citadel is on a thumb of land that provides a sheltered harbor. People call this a fjord, but there was no glacier, so technically this is a ria, a drowned river valley. A modern lighthouse sits on a narrow peninsula of sandstone at the entrance to the harbor. Up until recently, the citadel housed a unit of the French Foreign Legion, so they brought their monuments. This one memorializes legionnaires who fought in Algeria at the turn of the 19th century. This Roman column is a World War I memorial. When we last saw the map, the Romans were in charge, colonizing the island and changing the indigenous language to Latin. But in 469, the Vandals pushed the Romans out and sent the Corsicans into the mountains. In 534, the Byzantines chased the Vandals out, only to be thrown out themselves by the Lombards in 725. In 774, Charlemagne conquered Lombardy and Corsica. By 809, the Spanish Moors were attacking Corsica. In 824, Emperor Lothar I assigned the defense of the Tuscan coast and Corsica to Bonifacio II of Tuscany. In 828, Bonifacio started building the citadel. This tower is the most prominent remaining part of that original citadel. We walk past St. Dominic di Bonifacio, the largest church in Corsica. It dates to the late 13th century. Then we dive into the narrow streets of the old town. The coastline is notable for its outcropping of chalk-white limestone sculpted into tortured forms by the sea. The doors and windows of the old town are fun to photograph. These triple-arched windows are distinctively Genoese, so we just walked through 500 years of history. As Charlemagne's empire collapsed, feudal anarchy ruled. In 1077, the Pope laid claim to Corsica, saying Charlemagne had donated it to the church. Pope Gregory VII made the Bishop of Pisa the hereditary ruler of Corsica. Genoa was a great trading rival of Pisa. In 1195, Genoa captured Bonifacio. The Genoese effectively controlled Corsica from 1195 until 1755. Periods of feudal anarchy were punctuated by periods of war between Aragon, Pisa, and Genoa. For 500 years, the Genoese controlled enclaves on the coast, and the Corsicans controlled the interior. So the Genovese traders went about making lots of money and living in well-appointed palaces. They built and decorated beautiful chapels and churches. They were safe behind massive fortifications. Today, tourists walk those same narrow streets, now filled with restaurants, boutiques, and souvenir shops. So what happened in 1755, you ask? The rebellion started in 1729. The major problems were taxes, economic depression, Barbary pirates, and vendettas. In 1755, the Corsicans ratified Paoli's new constitution and elected him president. This is the anthem and the flag of the Republic of Corsica. Genoa, seeing that they had lost control of Corsica, sold Corsica to France in 1764. France invaded, and Corsica became a French province in 1770. We're heading back to St. Dominic de Bonifacio for a special treat. Corsica is known for its polyphonic choral music. This is a campanile. It's customary to end a concert with the anthem of the Republic of Corsica. After lunch, we take a boat ride to see Bonifacio from the waterside. The limestone cliffs are full of caves. Some are big enough to drive a boat into. This is a rough, unhospitable landscape. They call this scrub, which seems to cover most of the island, maquis. The Corsicans think of themselves like the maquis, tough, resilient, resistant to intruders, but makes wonderful honey. Now this is waterfront property. Then back to the harbor. And back to our hotel, where we enjoy the view and the wonderful food and taste some Corsican wine.